Hello and welcome to episode 229 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is April 22nd, 2024. And today I'm wearing something very old and something not quite as old. So the accessory that I'm wearing today it can be worn like this, like a little bolero jacket or like a little shrug, and it's basically just a knitted square that I have folded in half and then I've sewn two little seams. So the idea is nothing new, and I knit one of those in a different pattern out of a book, but that was one with a lace pattern and I wasn't happy with the lace pattern, so later I knitted one with a different lace pattern. But with this one, I wanted to see if I could make one of these in brioche. And the idea, I still like the idea, and I think it's a good one because it's warmer and thicker and more squishy than with a lace pattern, which sort of makes it more light and airy. But because of the way I increase the stitches, I did not get straight lines. So the way I increased the stitches, I got those curves. And in a way they are quite nice, but it just means that the square wasn't perfectly square. So if I hold it like this, I think you can see that the increased lines sort of always make a curve. They're not going straight. I later did another square where I changed the way I increased, and that was actually a square. I cast that off when it was still smaller and I gave it away to a child. But with this one, I decided to keep it for myself because of the not straight edges. But I think it's quite nice. I think the kind of wonkiness and the curves everywhere, they also have a certain appeal. And I've always wanted to knit another one with the two color brioche. So I had to have one color on the outside, one on the inside. But now I'm not quite sure I want to do it because I've learned that with brioche, it's different than double knitting. So you always see both colors. So either I would have to choose two colors that I would always want to see and then just change which one's a little more dominant. Or I could knit one of those with double knitting and then actually have one color inside and one color outside and then maybe a pattern running through it. That's another good idea. Anyway, this is just my first try to do a square with brioche pattern that did not work out perfectly, but I still like it. And of course, this is sock yarn by Opal. It's one of their rainforest colors. They very often have a black and white or gray and white color in their series, and especially I think with the rainforest, and I like to wear it. And and another interesting fact, I sometimes check when I knit things, when I wear them for the podcast, and I realized that I started knitting this square in September 2017, so that will make it fairly old. But I finished it in September 2020, so it took me 3 years to knit this. Doesn't mean it takes so much knitting, it's just that I probably put it aside for too long in between. And but after 3 years, I finally finished it, and now I've been wearing it for more than 3 years, so that's good. And the pullover I'm wearing, I've worn it on the podcast before, so maybe you've seen it before. This is actually the oldest pullover that I knit and I still own. It's not the oldest I've ever knit, but I did knit this when I was still at school, so this is more than 30 years old. Could be going on 40 years. I don't remember exactly when I knitted. The yarn I used was sent to me from Japan as a present. I couldn't read any Japanese back then, so I had no idea what the contents of the yarn was. It used to be a bit fuzzy, like it had some mohair in it, but that's mostly gone. And then there's sort of a grey yarn, and then there's some black and some silver sparkle in there. So I really like the yarn. I've always liked it a lot. I don't remember whether this was a pattern in a magazine or whether I just used the stitch pattern to make the pullover. Most of the edges are really straight, so it's a fairly simple pullover. I did do increases or decreases on the sleeves. I probably increased and sewed it in. I've mentioned before that the pattern doesn't really line up properly, but back then I didn't mind. I didn't care for these things, and nowadays I don't mind either. So I was very young when I knit this pullover, so I don't mind that this doesn't line up properly. I still think it's a very nice pullover. I think it has grown quite a bit over the years, so I think it used to be a bit shorter. I don't know. I used to wear it quite a lot, and then I gave it to my sister for quite some time, and then at some point she'd had enough of it. She wanted to give it back, and she gave it back to me, and ever since I've been wearing it. And yeah, I'm sometimes a bit worried it might fall apart at some point, but yeah, so it's quite nice to still have old pullovers that I still like, and that prove to me that it's worth putting a lot of effort and time into something that you hand make and then you wear for years and years and even for decades. Okay, so now this is actually the way I wear this most. I usually just throw it over my shoulders and around my neck like this, and to keep my neck warm. And it's a bit simpler, and it's easier to put on and take off than always going through the sleeve holes. Yeah, so much for what I'm wearing today. Then on to finished objects and my knitting and crochet from last week. By the way, there's no crochet last week. And yeah, so the last week was one of the sock madness weeks. Plus, I was away from home for the weekend. So those two facts combined mean that there are, again, 3 projects that I didn't touch last week, and but there are 2 new projects. And one of them is also my finished object, and that's the Sock Madness socks from round 4. So the pattern dropped Wednesday night, and I started knitting on Thursday. And I finished the first sock on Saturday, and I finished the second sock yesterday. And I actually managed to get a spot for the next round, but it was really close. So when I sent my email in, there were still 4 spots open. And then the next morning when I got the email that I got a spot for the next round, all the others had gone as well. And suddenly all the spots in my team had filled up. And actually for this round, we were that team that filled all the spots first. So it's a close call. Anyway, so these are the socks. The pattern is called the Gathering Socks, and the designer is Mary Pat McGurk, and she writes on her project, on the project page or on the pattern page for these socks, that the pattern will be available for everybody once the Sock Madness is over for this year. And there's quite a few things about this sock that was special. So we started with the provisional cast on, and then we started with the inside of the cuff, and then we purled around, so we had the point where it's supposed to fold, and then we had this drop stitch, garter stitch bit for the outside. Then the 2 halves were taken together and knitted together, and then you knit several rounds in the contrast color, but then you folded that up to create these what are they called? I can just remember the German word at the moment, but anyway, so you create these folds. But then there was also a stitch in between that was worked differently. Weld, I think it's a weld. So you don't have one big weld, but you have lots of little welds. So I thought that was really funny. And then the pattern started. And at the back of the sock, you doubled the number of stitches and then knitted these stitches on a smaller needle. And then you went back to the normal stitch count and to the normal needle size. So there's a lot happening on the back of the sock. And then on the front of the sock, we have this beautiful pattern with these like tiny cables and wandering stitches. And I just realized I wanted to bring the straight blocker to show the front of the sock, but I'll have to show you like this now. But you can look at the pictures on my project page if you are interested. So this is the pattern that we then followed. Then the heel flap was knit with all 3 colors, so main color and the 2 contrast colors in a very special pattern. Then there was the heel turn, and then the decreases, the gusset decreases, all happened on the sole of the foot. And then we continued with the pattern. And then there was also some embroidery. So that's the contrast color 2. Contrast color 1 are the welts up here. And then the contrast color 2 were used to embroider the palestrina stitch. So that was something new for me. I'd never heard of that before. I think I did it correctly from the video that she provided, and I think they look quite nice. A friend of mine said that from looking at the pictures, she thought those were beads. So that's it really does look a little bit like beads, but it's a lot softer than proper beads. Yeah, so this is the pattern for the round 4 Sock Madness this year. The round still runs till next week, Wednesday, unless the spots fill quicker again. But I don't really think so, because these are quite a lot of work. And as far as I know, yesterday there were still some teams where there wasn't one spot filled. So everybody was still knitting, and yeah, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure, no, I'm definitely sure that this week there will be no Sock Madness pattern, so I can concentrate on all the projects that did not get worked on. And these are the crochet pullover. As I said, no crochet last week. I definitely have to do some crochet this week. I did not knit on the double face cowl, remember, the double knit cowl, remember. Double face is the German expression for double knitting, which is really crazy. Anyway, and I didn't knit on the skirt, the Evenstar shawl pattern that I'm knitting as a skirt. So those are the 3 projects that I'm not showing today, but I just realized that I have 3 new cast-ons today. Forgot to mark that as a new cast-on, but I had good reasons. So of course the Sock Madness socks had to be cast on, and then I cast on another sock. Oh, there's another project I forgot to put down. The 2 Worlds socks, the one of the bonus patterns that I cast on as a new cast on last week, or the week before last week, and that I showed you last week. I did not manage to knit on those, but that's again something I have to do this week. But I still cast on another new sock, and that's because I wanted to have something for the car ride Friday night. I knew we were going to go late and it was going to be dark, and I knit on the Sock Madness socks as long as possible, and I even used a little lamp that I could hang around my neck while we were going. But when it got really dark, I didn't want to use the lamp, so I wouldn't distract my husband who was driving. So I cast on, before we left, I cast on a new sock just to have something simple to knit that I can knit in the dark. And I grabbed this Opal Abo, this from the subscription box. So this is like a typical men's socks color. And I am knitting a pair of socks for a friend of mine's husband. And the reason I'm doing this is because her husband is really tall and has very big feet. And she loves to knit, and she knits quite a lot, but she doesn't enjoy knitting socks. And if she knits socks, she does knit them for herself. And she never got round to knitting socks for her husband. So another friend of ours decided she was going to knit socks for him. And to know which size to knit, she actually made this sock blocker. So this is German size 48-49, which is really big, and it's a size that you don't easily get sock blockers for, and it's a size that's not on all of the sock tables where you have the numbers, how many stitches and centimeters to knit for certain sizes. So she created this to help size his socks, and this is what I'm going to use to figure out how long to knit the foot. I mean, the leg is I can do as long as I like. Yeah, but anyway, so this is what I have so far. It's not too much, but I did a bit of the ribbing before we left, and then I did the rest of the ribbing in the dark. I was quite happy to find out afterwards that I didn't make a mistake. And sometimes if a car would overtake us, or we overtake a car, I would quickly hold it up into the light to see what I was doing. But then the rest I just knit in the dark. It was just a stockinette in the round. No problem. And I'm not in a hurry for these socks, but I can just use them anytime I need something easy to pack or something that I don't really have to look at when I want to concentrate on something else. You know what I always say, the situations that I like the mindless knittings for. So this is the second new cast on. And before we get to the third new cast on and the reason for that, the next project I want to show you is the little gnome that I started the week before last, but I showed you the beginning last week. And I told you I am trying to knit through all the gnomes in Sarah Shearer's first collection that she designed for Jimmy Bean's wool or yarn. I don't remember. And I thought I hadn't knit Normanda yet, but then I realized I had already knit her, but I still started the second version. And I've now decided the second version is going to look like this. This is the first version. So this is Normanda the way she was designed, with braids and with a pullover or a dress and a little embroidery on her hat. And I decided he's going to be her twin brother. So I did want to knit a beard for the second one, but I also wanted to knit the dress. But now I thought, because of course the mystery gnome started last week and it was just too much. And then with the sock man as well, I decided I'm not going to do the dress for him, and I'll decide he's going to be her twin brother. So they are knit with the same yarn, they're knit from the same pattern, but the sleeves, the arms have the different color because she has like a long sleeve pullover or long sleeve dress, and instead of the braids, he has the beard, and that's the way that's going to be now. And I still need to knit the last gnome in the collection, and then this project can be a finished project. Yeah, and then when the first clue came out for the mystery gnome, I completely ignored it because I was so concentrated on the Sock Madness socks. But as soon as I'd finished the second sock and I'd taken the pictures and sent my email off, I started knitting on the mystery gnome. And in case you are knitting the mystery gnome as well and you don't want to see it yet, you have to look away. No, you don't have to look away yet. I'll show you my colors quickly. This is the color one, my color one. So this is the self-striping yarn. This is the first gnome that she designed specifically for self-striping yarn. And because all opal yarn, or most opal yarn, is self-striping yarn, I definitely had to use some opal yarn. And this is a leftover yarn from, I think from the Cowl, the Cowl pattern by Martina Behm. I think it's a leftover from that project. And I just love the rainbowy colors and I thought I want to use that. And I chose this. I'm not showing what I knit, I'm just showing this is the color that I chose as the contrast color. And this is my white, almost white color for the hands and beards and nose. And now I'm showing what I knit. So the first clue, there were the two mystery pieces to the same in color 2, and they look like this. So everybody can guess what they are going to be for. And then in clue 1, we just cast on a few stitches with a provisional cast on and knit 2 rows. And then the clue 2 came, I think, on Saturday. And then we continued knitting on this. And this is what this looks like now. So I think this is her big surprise on how to knit a gnome with self-striping yarn without having to work with different number of stitches because you either increase or decrease. So we are knitting with the same number of stitches the whole time, and the clue or the mystery or whatever is in the short rows. And I just love the way the yarn comes out. So it's quite interesting that I have this color sequence, and this is almost exactly the same. So the color that I only have once is almost exactly in the middle. I think it looks so interesting. She recommends blocking this piece. I might do that tonight. Yeah, so it doesn't roll all the time. Okay, I'm not showing it anymore, but this is the beginning of the mystery gnome. I think the last clue comes out next Monday, so I won't be finished with it when I film the next video. I think there will probably just be either a little piece that's missing, or maybe the instruction on how to put things together. So we'll see about that. But it's very exciting, and that was the reason I had to cast on something new, because it's a mystery knit along and I wanted to knit along. And to be honest, I'm so into mystery knit alongs for quite some time now. Yes, last year was already a year of mystery knit alongs, and I think this year is going to be even worse. I not only bought the mystery gnome, but I also bought the pattern for Susanna IC's mystery shawl that started last week. I've got the pattern, I've got the yarn. I don't have the beads yet that I want to use, so I'm still getting things together, but I will probably cast this on this week. And then I also bought the mystery knit along pattern by Kate Davies. She wrote a new book. And the whole thing, the book and the mystery knit along, is called The Summer of Mysteries, and we also read mystery novels, and it's a really interesting bundle, and I bought that as well. But this is going to start in May, so I don't have to worry about that yet. But so the gnome will be fairly quick because it's a small thing to knit. The shawl by Susanna IC is going to take longer, so I don't worry about starting a little late. I will try, and I hope to catch up, especially as I'm going to take that with me on holiday. I can just mention quickly, next week will be a normal episode, and then the day after we are going on holiday for 2 weeks. And then the next Monday I will hopefully have made a special video that we can upload then. And then there'll be one Monday without a video. And then after that, I'll show you what I knit during my holiday. Yeah, but that's in the future. Let's get back to what I knit last week. So I continued knitting on the pullover, the Lanatus pullover, by, what was her name? Susan Crawford. And last week I said I was going to split for the front and back and the sleeves after this pattern. And then I tried it on again with my sister's help. And again, I had the feeling it was a little too small. So after thinking about it for a little longer, I decided to actually do one more round of increases and to add the next little pattern. So it's even deeper than before, and I have more stitches now, and I feel a lot more confident. And what I also did, I changed the ratio of stitches from the sleeves to the front and back. So I looked at her numbers, how she divided the stitches, and then I tried to find out what it meant for my stitch count, because I have fewer stitches because I'm knitting at a different gauge. And then I looked at the numbers and I decided to take some stitches away from the front and back that were really wide and put them on the sleeves because they seemed a bit too small. And then I also changed my mind, and instead of starting with the sleeve, I did actually start with the front and back. Start is a bit, it's not really accurate because all I did was one round. But I knit one round on the front and back. I cast on new stitches under the arm, and I will now continue to knit the front and back for a bit, maybe for a bit more. I don't know. I probably won't finish the front and back before I do the sleeves, but I'm not quite sure at the moment what I'm going to do. But I felt that if I knit a bit on the front and back, it would be easier to try on, and it would be easier to see whether the stitches, the way I've arranged them and the size of the yoke, whether that fits. And I know it means that if I want to undo it, there's more stitches to undo than with a sleeve, but I still felt it was the better way to go forward and to get a good fit on this pullover. Otherwise, I still love the way the colors come out and the pattern looks, and looking forward to continuing on this. And then I also knit a few rounds on the Mamaki dress by a pattern by Nicolor, knit from this very special yarn that I bought at the wool factory in Hamburg, and I chose all the different yarns that were put together onto this cone. And last week I showed the finished first sleeve, and now I knit a few centimeters on the second sleeve. I knit about half the rounds I did without the decreases, so I have to do about the same number of rounds again, just going straight, and then I'll have to start the decreases. This is a fairly mindless knit at the moment. It's just a very stationary knit because I only knit it here in the shop. I don't carry it home with me because I want to be careful with the cone. So I'll have to find some time while I'm here, either while I'm working or while I'm waiting for someone, or sometimes I knit during the lunch break. Yeah, and then I'm already at the last project because I did not continue knitting on the Haramaki. As I said, things were a bit crazy last week, but I knit on the squiggle and stripe. That was a very good project for the journey back. And so I knit on that in the car, and I added 4 more stripes. So last week I had 3, each color 3 times, and now I have the greens 4 times and the beige. I even have the 5th stripe, and I've decided now I will do all the 6 stripes of each color the way it's written in the pattern, and I will just trust that Stephen West knows what he's doing. And I'm already looking forward to doing one of the sides. For one, I will only have 2 colors then and not 4 colors. And I am sort of hoping that I won't have to look at the pattern as much when I'm knitting those 2 color bits that go on the 2 sides of the shawl. But otherwise, I'm still very happy with it, and I enjoy knitting the yarn, and yeah, very good. Anyway, that was everything. I knit, no crochet last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!